I think it works now, yeah.
Do you want to share the screen from my laptop?
No, it's fine.
Yeah, because I also have like the main T and
Wait, one sec. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. We should have a stream. We should have a stream. It should. Okay, perfect. You can hear me clearly and perfectly. Everything is perfect and everything works. All right. Okay. Did Don update the presentation?
yeah, I think so.
Perfect.
Yeah, I send it to you.
Like Don finished the presentation, right? Like the slide
Yeah,
deck.
we finished it, and
Yeah.
he didn't want to change anything. I say it's done now.
What were the changes that they made though? The presentation. Ah, I can see. All right. Is there any like video playing within the presentation?
No,
No?
no.
So there's only slides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
know if you reached out to other PMs to ask if they would do it, but then I was like, let me ask. I want a European PM to do it because it's always US. So that's why I was like, let me reach out to Jens. And because they're new, I thought this was a great opportunity to just like get a little bit more.
Hey.
Yeah. I can't shake your hand. Sorry. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Hey, there you are. Good to meet you. Finally. Yeah. Cool. Welcome.
See, yeah.
The space. I've never
Yeah,
really.
we get this.
This is it. This is us. There's, this is the.
Okay, well then, well this is it.
Now it does. Like I made some adjustments. Hello, 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 hello. Checking on the sound. Checking on the sound. We're good. We're in a good spot.
side if you want to sit here at the front. You know, you'll get some tough questions when you do that, but I think that you can handle that. I see a couple of new faces. My name is Don Ginsel. I founded Holland FinTech some time ago and still run it as CEO, together with my fabulous team that you'll find here, all scattered around at the back, doing filming, organization, and everything else. And I'd love to basically learn a little bit more about you also along the way. And the best way to do that actually is to just talk about FinTech. So what we're going to do today is actually give you some highlights of what we've seen happening in the news, which we think is interesting for you to just get a feeling for developments. And of course, we've got some companies who will be pitching here and just showing off what they're about to do, how they do that, and of course, what they're also looking for from a collaboration perspective, because there might be links to be made. And then to everyone else in the audience, it's the challenge, come up with savvy questions to challenge what they're talking about, not just for the fun, but actually also to learn better, right? I mean, if you understand how they make money, how they build things, I think we'll actually also all learn a bit more from what's going on, and I hope that that also adds a bit to the fun. And we'll wrap things up with our famous pub quiz about to test your knowledge of the fintech scene. So I hope that that's also joyful, and we'll get into some drinks afterwards. One household measure is, because if we look at the agenda, it says here that we're actually also supposed to get some welcome words from Techstars. But actually they're all in a board meeting at the moment, and that's running out. So we have to do a bit without them, but we're very grateful for them to give us this space to organize the event, and we hope that they'll be able to drop in a bit later on during the event. That's it from a household measure. One more thing to talk about. We're of course going to look a bit ahead at Amsterdam FinTech Week, which is next week. Ryan, I'd like to ask you to already go to Michael to check in. You're already wired, sorry, no, I didn't see that. Then it's company, if you could also please go to the back, if you could do that. Then the rest will wire later, but in any case, we've got everything set up for the first half. Any questions so far? Are we all good? Comfortable? Yeah? Right. So very briefly, just do a few words about why we're actually doing this as Holland FinTech. Right? We're an association full of organizations that are active in finance and are especially driven to innovate. So that's why the fin and the tech come together. It's not per se because we only want to talk about tech, but we see that there's a very big change going through the financial industry, and we could use that change for better financial services to actually help customers better with their financial challenges. And we think that the best way to do that is through connect, learn, and innovate, which is connect, that's the network that we hope to bring together. One of the examples is actually the event that we do here. And when you're together, we think you can learn much faster about what's going on in the world and how you can make use of that. And innovate is actually the collaboration part, where we think that if you actually meet up, you might be able to do something together. And of course, that's if you peel down what FinTech is about, it's basically about the fact that we can actually break up financial services in all kinds of microservices, like digital Lego. And that means that everyone can start building, because you don't have to have everything in-house these days anymore. And I think that's a really interesting perspective that we should get much more people enthusiastic about and to get active to start building. So as said, we're an association with around 300 organizations as members, ranging from fresh startups, big scale-ups, tech platforms, as well as banks, insurance companies, asset managers, more the traditional players. And all these different organizations face different challenges, right? So if you're entering a market, you're looking for, getting your brand, your word out there, finding who is who in the network and meeting them. But if you're a large organization with already a vast business, you're looking more at your transformation, figuring out, how do we deal with all these new technologies that come up? What does my customer want of me in the future, and how do I build that, and how do I collaborate actually with other players to facilitate that? So we're trying to look at all these different angles to help everyone move forward and advance in the developing landscape. That's it about Holland FinTech. To tell you a bit more about the news, I'm going to flip this around a little bit to make sure that I don't stand in front of the screen. So we just, if you might know, we on a weekly basis produce a global FinTech newsletter sent out every Friday, where we wrap up the most important news items that we found, and we think that's relevant for you to keep track of. So on a monthly basis, we like to tell you about it to make it a bit more conversational. We just highlight a couple of the news items that we saw that we think are interesting from a more trend perspective as well. So it's interesting to see, well, I mean, very often you see that MasterCard and Visa are very much dominant in the fintech news. Therefore, we actually thought it was nice to actually highlight what American Express is doing, because it's a brand you don't hear that much about in the innovation space recently. But they are actually moving forward in the B2B space with their new solution called Global Pay. I thought it was quite an interesting development. And so from that perspective, I think it's interesting to see that all the credit card firms are actually highly innovating and very much spending quite some money on collaborations, acquisitions, or their own accelerations or investment programs. We've also seen, of course, given that last year the interest rates started to rise, that also there's a bit of a crunch on venture capital. And we see especially that the firms that were relying very much on funding had to tune it down. We've seen already before, we've talked a bit about what Klarna had to do in Europe, taking very big hits and having to scale down, firing off a large portion of their staff. And now we saw, for example, in America that Robinhood, a big investment platform, also had to do the same thing. And this was also actually coinciding with a fine that they got, but actually the 30 million I think was not really the problem, the fine that they got. It's more that funding is just becoming much harder, and investors are demanding everyone to start making a profit much faster than before. So if you say, you know, we'll grow first to 1 million customers and then we'll start making money, that's not good enough anymore. People want to know, are you going to be making money within the next 18 to 24 months? Otherwise, we're not going to invest in you. And for some companies, that's really a problem if you're in the long game. So challenging environment from a funding perspective, even though I think that for especially smaller deals, there's still quite some money available. So as long as but I think you actually come a bit closer to sort of the Dutch way of doing venture capital, which tend to also look for profitability and making cash much earlier, I think, than we're used to, for example, from American VCs. Well, of course, the war in Ukraine is continuing to go on, even though they seem to be very well capable of actually reviving the economy and getting business going again in the portions where there's no fighting going on. But they're still really strained on cash and weapons, and it's interesting to see that they now also jumped onto the NFT hype to actually let people donate that to be able to sell them again, to raise money to fund all the efforts there. Interesting way of how you see that, you know, governments are also following what's happening in tech and seeing if they can use it to their advantage. UNCTAD released a new policy brief highlighting the dangers of the use of crypto in developing nations. We see especially that in developing countries that they very often have export restrictions on cash, which is pretty tough if your family doesn't all live in the same country, right? So what you see is that very often crypto is being used as a means to get money out of the country without basically circumventing the restrictions. But of course, this is not what people want. And you see as well that also trickles down further into the economy, where at some point things are not being, let's say cryptos are not being exchanged back into fiat currency, but they're actually being exchanged into, they keep them in crypto. We've seen, of course, that El Salvador actually legalized crypto as a formal payment means in their country, and you see more and more developing nations exploring that route. And I think that's where especially the UN is worried about that might actually be a problem. The ECB is actually looking into crypto regulation from a European perspective. We see that now if you look into Germany, the Dutch market, or in France, or in the UK, well, UK is actually not relevant anymore, but they're actually, you see that the regulations on crypto change very heavily across the regions. And the ECB is now actually attempting to harmonize that more, which should also make it more easy to actually let banks work with crypto, because this is one of the hurdles that we still see, that legally it might be, banks should be allowed to actually work with crypto, but then again the regulators actually don't like it that much, so they will all go into a stricter regime once you start going into crypto, which is kind of spoiling the job, right? So that's happening on that end. Also very interesting this last month was the fact that the euro-dollar parity happened, right? So we saw for the first time again that the euro was worth less than the dollar. Quite an event, which of course has much to do with the fact that the interest rates are very fast on the rise in the US, and Europe is lagging behind because they're struggling with their traditional north-south perspective, as in the northern countries could really use a raise in interest, but the southern countries couldn't cope with their government finance to actually deal with higher interest rates. And that's basically stalling the ECB, and therefore actually, if you make less money with euros than you do with dollars, the value basically exchanges. But it could have quite an effect as well on the fundings that go around, and sort of everyone who's in Forex need to really keep an eye on this. Then interesting one as well is that Flow Traders, quite well known and listed company in Amsterdam doing options trading. They're a market maker, and they set up their own VC fund with a 50 million commitment, which I think is quite interesting as well, given the funding crunch that we have. That there's also some fresh money coming into the market. The MAS, Monetary Authority of Singapore, fund going into the Carbon Zero program. I think that's also interesting. You see, well, in any case, the MAS is a very active regulator that tries to dominate the whole Asian region and tries to sort of impose all kinds of measures on the licensed organizations that they supervise. And you see now that they're actually trying to really push also for this carbon perspective. And I think in a couple of months there's the Singapore FinTech Festival. We're actually exploring whether we can go there with a group of companies. So if you're interested in that, please also let us know, because we're very keen on bringing a delegation there. But you see that I think that this is also going to be a big topic on their big FinTech Festival, right? And the Singapore FinTech Festival is like 25,000 people coming together talking about FinTech. Quite an interesting game, and usually quite high speakers as well. Yeah, and I think one of the news that could not have escaped you probably here in the Netherlands is the fact that ING decided to stop with Yolt. Yolt started out as a money management app, especially in the UK, and it sort of transformed into an open banking platform later on. But it's one of the things where you see actually that the larger banks are worried, let's say, are struggling with their original fintech portfolio to a certain extent. On the other hand, I would also say always that there's, if you do venturing, you should not expect everything to succeed. So it could just be a choice that you actually kill this project instead of something else. So I wouldn't worry that much about ING's capabilities to keep on innovating, but it is a kind of a signal now that we, instead of seeing large investment rounds from banks into new ventures or new spin-outs, that we actually see that they're reassessing actually whether they should put more money in those ventures. All good? Still there with me? Yeah. All right, then I'll keep it short after this. The funding cap, so we got money flow raising at 250 million from Denmark. That's quite an extraordinary amount, and especially since that's leading in a European, let's say a European amount is leading across the globe over the past month. So that's quite nice actually. Then we got especially sort of capital markets are still basically on the rise, which I think is quite interesting because it's less, let's say most of the consumer-prone ventures are, I think, usually more cash heavy, so they need much more money to actually be able to grow and acquire customers. And the challenge is that it requires so much venture capital that becomes harder in this market. So what we'll expect to see is more B2B propositions in the market, and that's I think also what we see here in this list of funding rounds. More business-to-business fintech that's actually on the rise because they tend to need less money to be able to grow. Then some interesting research you might have seen as well in our, if you read our newsletters, we actually link to research reports that we think are worthwhile to check out. I won't go into deep into this one, but there's an interesting Asian market overview in any case on the use of DeFi, which is expected to actually really much on the rise, also in the link with the UN report that we discussed earlier. Then, just before I wrap up and let you all go to the pitches for the next steps, Amsterdam FinTech Week's coming up, starting Tuesday, then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are community days, and on Friday we have the Amsterdam FinTech Week Summit. So here we've got some nice events also by Techstars on Thursday, FinCoke, Aures, 5 Degrees, Provenir, Allstrade are doing events, and we're kicking it off ourselves on the Tuesday morning. So these are community days events that you can subscribe to based on sometimes listing criteria by the organizer, but you can check them out via the XFW website. We're especially spending a lot of time on organizing the summit, which is on Friday, And here you see some nice highlights of the parties that we have. We've got some great companies there, and amongst others, Constantine or Laura van Geest of the chair of the AFM, the Financial Markets Authority, and some great platforms as well, from online payment platform to Bank to Plaid, and quite some big names, and we think in fintech, to set the tone and talk about everything that's hot at the moment in fintech. And we're especially keen on actually bringing the customer perspective at the table, because we think very often fintech could be really about sort of the technicalities that are behind the scene, but not always that interesting for customers to listen to, right? If you start talking about PSD2, most customers would already be gone. But if you actually start talking about the way you can use your banking data or your financial data in a certain way, it becomes much more interesting to explore how you could actually do that. But we need to also discover what kind of language we need to use there. So that's one of the things that we're very keen on exploring, amongst others, during this session. Yeah, here are a bit of the highlights. We're very grateful, of course, for our sponsors, Mambu, Enfuse, Google Cloud, Cognito, Dusk, 5 Degrees, Payhawk, and Fincoke. So yeah, definitely would like to extend the invitation for you to join the community days and the summit on Friday. One of the things, also one of the nice perks, is that you can actually use Brella, the networking app, to actually connect to everyone, right? So we have it's like a, I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with Brella, but it's a digital matchmaker that actually, based on your preferences, matches you up with all the other attendees, making really useful matchmaking throughout the event. One of the perks of joining us. I'll wrap it up for now, but I actually saw Allard walk in, so I definitely want to make sure I give our host a bit of time to, in any case, to thank you, Allard, but maybe you'd like to say something about your event and what you're doing here with Techstars?
Of course.
Yeah? Cool.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
Hello, thank you so much. So good to see you all here. So first of all, you're all in seats, and I'm pretty sure that you're the first butts in those seats, because this is all brand new, and we're actually setting up for 28 founders from all over Europe, all fintech founders, to arrive. For tomorrow, we have our kind of get to know each other day, and then Monday we kick it off. So we are the ABN AMRO plus Techstars Future of Finance Accelerator, and we basically take early stage fintech companies through a 3-month acceleration process. It's mentorship driven. We have 100 mentors that start to work with these companies. They get full access, deep access into the bank. We've selected 10 pretty amazing founder teams from 400 applications to join us, and for me it's the first time. Cool. Last year we did the first run with another MD. He ran 3 programs, the Barclays program in the Barclays Techstars program that ran out of London for multiple years before. So that was the end of his run, and now it's my turn, and yeah, we're getting game ready. So and this is actually the kickoff, which is very nice. So, and it's not only kickoff because for all of you, but also for 3 of our companies that are joining us, because they're going to be pitching here. So we get 31 Third, and we have Thanks Network, and we have Beyond Equity, just showing what they've got for you here in a few minutes. Or, but that will be a little while before they start, or not? Is this immediately after this? Yeah, the pitches start immediately after. Yeah, cool. Yeah. All right. So in closing, next week Thursday, we actually have a pretty big event going here. We have a class announcement where all our companies will present. Will also be live streamed. Then we have a VC panel on the state of European fintech funding, which for the founders amongst you is pretty relevant. We have a really great panel waiting for you. Then we do investor speed dating, which if you will be interested in that, it's now too late. We've selected 40 companies out of more than 100 to pitch to 25 VCs in the space and virtually. But after that, there's going to be a pretty awesome drinks party. So if you're a fintech founder or you're an investor, you're very much invited. There's a link that you can access. It's called Fintech Founder Fest, so you'll find it on Eventbrite. Come, bring your Fintech Founder friends, and it's going to be a good time. I think that there's going to be 100 founders and about like 20 to 30 VCs in the space. So, and all, of course, part of the Amsterdam FinTech Week, which we're very happy to be part of.
Yeah, cool.
So, I think that's it. Welcome, have a great time, and so happy to have you here with us.
Yeah, I hope you have some time at the end also to mingle a bit with everyone. Yeah, you're here?
Absolutely.
Cool, thanks. Bit of mic improvising here, but I hope it worked. Cool. Yeah, so we've got Ryan as the first one to pitch up. Are you ready, Ryan? Yep. I'll hand over the clicker.
Sure.
I'd like everyone to, in any case, make sure that you listen carefully, of course, to Ryan. That speaks for itself. But also think a little bit about what else you would like to know that he's not telling, right? So think a little bit about any questions you may have. And we'll also ask you to rate the pitch afterwards. So take it away, Ryan. Enjoy.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for making the time to be here. Let me just check the clicker. Yep. I'm going to start with a bit of a personal story. My father is a bit of a startup founder and he started long before startups were cool. Back in the 70s, he was studying medicine in Rome. He quit 3 years into it, and he decided to start a company, which today he would call a startup, but back in the days it was just a company. He worked on it for a year, started small, and then when it was time to grow, he went to a bank. And what the bank gave him was a loan. He used that loan to grow, he repaid the bank, and then he forgot about the bank's name. Today, the bank is not part of our lives. He has his business, it's working, and so on and so forth. Now, fast forward 20 years, the status quo changed to one where a startup founder cannot go to a bank and get a bank loan. And it's not wrong. It's simply because banks realize that investment risk has an important role in the equation, and they just can't give bank loans to startups. So it's fair, but it's not very good for startups. What this leads us to where we stand today. If you're a startup founder, you need to get money to grow. To get money to grow, in a way or another, you're going to have to end up giving equity to an investor, whether it's kickbacks via venture debt or whether it's simple equity funding. That leads to a problem whereby startups every single year, or companies in general, lose, or rather the founders of those companies, lose $1 trillion from their pockets every year because they had to give them to investors, which again, is partially fair because that's what's needed to grow, but that's the size of the problem. Now, this is the most important part that's going to come in the conversation, so I want you guys to pay attention. We invented a solution to this problem. The solution to this problem is very simply an investment mechanism whereby the company gets whatever amount of cash they need, same old way, but the investor gets something that's very similar to royalties on the company's revenues. What that means is, let's say I need $1 million. You give me $1 million. In exchange for that, I will give you, for example, 1% of my revenues going forward. Now, this is basically written in a piece of paper. This piece of paper does not have an expiry date, which means that you will own 1% of my revenues going forward. If today my revenues are $100, you get $1. If tomorrow my revenues are $100 billion, you get $1 billion. This works really well at the beginning. But later on, as the startup grows, it starts to become a worse and worse and worse deal for the startup. Because obviously, if you become huge, that 1% becomes a huge amount, and investor wins, company loses by far. Because of that, we invented this is the invention. We came up with an add-on, which in the world of finance you would call a call option, or rather a right to repurchase or exit, which is basically this. So here we have company gets funding, gives away, let's say, 1% of its revenue, but whenever the company changes its mind, it will have the right to cancel that piece of paper or exit that agreement by virtue of basically repaying the money that it took, in that example, $1 million, and adding an interest rate or a penalty, let's say. That's pretty much the product. I don't want to go into too many complications because we could stay here for 4 hours and talk about it. There's a lot of financial theory behind it. But basically, it's a royalty-based investment where a company gives X% of its revenues, up to 5%, and whenever they're not happy with it, they exit the arrangement by paying a certain amount to the investor. Now, if we wrap our heads around this deal and the implications of this deal, again, in very simplistic terms, it's a lot more complicated than this, but this on the left is a typical equity funding round done by a startup. The startup gets an amount of money, they get new people in the cap table, they give some equity to investors, and they give the investor a promise for profit. They basically say whenever we make revenue, we're going to take out the salaries, the cost of goods sold, blah, 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 so on and so forth. In the vast majority of cases, that's going to translate into a loss, which will translate into no profit for the investor. In this case, the startup gets the amount of money. There's supposed to be some scribbles over here, but they don't get new people in the cap table. They don't lose any equity, so the founders keep 100% of their equity, which means that when they exit, they have more equity in their pocket, or when they grow, they get to sell that equity for a lot more money. For the investor, they get their money before costs are deducted. So they're the same dynamics of a loan, because they own a percentage of the revenue, not of the profit. So it's kind of a win-win for both. That's pretty much the idea. This is me and my co-founder Radhika. There's a lot of words here, but what it says is that we did a lot of finance, we worked for a lot of places, and we founded 2 startups before this one. Questions?
Cool. Thanks, Ryan.
Pleasure.
No, don't go. No, you're not done yet.
Sure.
Because now comes the question part indeed. Anyone already has something? Yes, please go ahead. I'll repeat the question.
Roman, you mentioned you said that only 5% of the sales, right? Why 5?
Because if you go to a startup and you let them sell more than 5% of their revenues, there's a chance that you shoot them in the foot. The whole point is that the startups need to use this money to grow, but they actually need to pay a part of the revenues going forward. Imagine a world where a startup sells 50% of its revenues, then it's going to be making huge losses throughout, and it actually won't be able to grow long term.
I understand, but depending on the stage of the startup and the business case, for instance, do you then predict the possibility that for the same startup you have 2 or 3 investors doing the same each time 5%?
Eventually, yes, but the cumulative needs to be at 5% at most, as a rule of thumb. Then later, when we're more developed, we'll refine this rule.
Okay, that's interesting. Any other questions already? Yeah, please.
So how do you incentivize investors who are used to, having equity stakes in companies and feeling like they're taking a risk? It seems like they're taking a big risk with this too. And it could be canceled any time.
Yeah.
2 things. This can be done in parallel to equity, so it doesn't exclude equity. But imagining a world where somebody uses this product as opposed to equity, it's more about, first of all, the risk profile is actually higher, the return profile is actually better than typical VC returns. We engineered this product to give returns of 15 to 20%. And if you look at VCs on average, they make from 8 to 15% on a long-term basis. The risk is actually lower because you're only exposed to the top line. Now, the only thing, like you mentioned, that an investor wouldn't like in this arrangement is that repurchase option. Now, that repurchase option is specifically, like the pricing of that option is specifically set so that the investor will make 15 to 20%. So at the end of it, it's actually an assurance that they'll make enough money that will make them happy.
I think the interesting part as well is that you might lack control as a shareholder, but then you're guaranteed that you start making money because you don't have to decide on dividend, you just get it, right?
Absolutely.
You might have an accounting challenge. How do you deal with that, right? So how do you validate revenues, for example?
It's a contractual obligation. So we usually integrate with the accounting platform of the company, if possible. That happens in the majority of cases. But even if that was not to happen, we have a contract that states that they have to send us the revenue information. And obviously, if they send us anything fake, they're legally liable.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Mirko. What stage is your company in? Are you making revenue? Are you having customers?
We're not making revenue yet, and that's specifically because we focused on the company side of the arrangement. We spent the past year getting to know everything that companies expect in terms of this product, and we fine-tuned it to a point where up until 2 months ago, we were still talking to companies and hitting walls and so on and so forth, and right about 2 months ago, we started getting customers like this. Right now, we're at a stage where we have 6 customers onboarded. We expect to be at 10 customers by the end of the month. And by customers, I mean companies that are asking for funds and that have a formally signed piece of paper saying, this is how much I want to raise at these conditions. Our priority for the next 2 months is to switch to the investor side and start raising capital. We've already looked into it at the very beginning of the startup. We have a strategy, we have a formed opinion, and we just need to activate it.
Because how do you make money on this?
We charge 1% on each side. 1% on the company side and 1% on the investor side of the amount that's being raised
Okay, up front.
upfront.
That could be. I can imagine that some people would want that rather that you have more skin in the game on the paid percentage of revenue. For
We're
example.
actually changing that as we speak.
Okay.
In the most likely scenario, it's going to be 1% upfront from the company side and 1% of what the investor gets on the other.
Okay.
So that's where
Yeah.
our interests are basically aligned on both ends.
Okay.
A good point.
Nice. Any last questions?
How much are you
Yep.
raising?
We plan to raise ballpark figure 1 to 1.3 million, targeting early 2023. And these are funds to fund the startup, so to pay the salaries and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
it's
not
not
capital,
funds
yeah.
to, it's not MOU, let's say, or funds to finance other companies.
All right. Cool.
Cool.
Let's
Thanks
give
a lot,
Ryan a big
everyone.
hand, everyone.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Well done. We've got a job for you. Please pick up your phone and scan this QR code. That sends you to menti.com and allows you to give a rating to Ryan's pitch. I hope it works. Are you guys getting in?
Can I rate myself?
We won't check it. Yeah, everyone got it? Is it also working there at the back? Looks like it, right? Yeah.
Do you can give us like a rating?
Yeah, it's like a scale of 1 to 10. And it's about just about what the audience appreciates the most, right? So it's more for the fun factor, right? So I'm not sure if it's going to help you land a deal at the end today already or not, but yeah, it's for the honor, right? Have we got everyone signed in? Yeah. Okay. So of course this will come back after each pitch, but then you know about this. So thanks for that. Then company, are you ready? Or did I make you nervous now? Now you know that you have to be, you will be rated. Here's a clicker. Good luck, everyone, and good luck, Europe.
I think you don't have my font type.
Oh, this
Because
looks
we
like
sent
it
it in
indeed.
a PDF. But
Do we have the loose presentations here as well?
no, you don't have our font type. Anyway, no problem. So we're going to improvise a bit. So decentralized finance have the same level of adoption in 2022 as the internet had in 1997. But while DeFi is really one of the most notable innovations of our time, there's still many barriers to entry, the sector which keeps us back, especially institutions, from wider adoption. And now we want to make sure that decentralized doesn't equal disorganized, except in this case. And yes, so I would like to introduce you to 313 with a decentralized asset management infrastructure on the mission to reinvent the trading and portfolio management experience in DeFi. So how do we do that? We are the first platform to offer a multi-asset swap, which means that you can exchange multiple assets both on the buy and sell side in one single transaction. And we're also the only ones to create a decentralized order book, which enables you to trade without slippage or price impact. Now, I know to most of you this doesn't say much, so let's try to dive into 2 examples. Yeah, this is correct. So let's assume we're a trader and we want to exchange $3,000 of Ethereum into 3 of the largest DeFi tokens, so Uniswap, Compound, and Chainlink. Now, previously, this used to take 3 transactions, 3 times the transaction cost, 3 times the hassle, and in a fast-moving market, this is pretty much a luxury. With our multi-asset swap, you can combine this transaction in one single block trade, and we pretty much reimagine not just the user experience, but we also reduce the transaction cost, and we introduce a radically optimized execution system as well, completely on blockchain. Now, let's look at the same trade, but from the perspective of an institution when we're exchanging 3 million of Ethereum. This is a screenshot from one of the leading DeFi exchanges. For those who cannot see, you suffer 24% price impact loss. And this is just only one trade. With us, with the open order book, you can complete the trade in one block. set your risk tolerance and still execute it with the result that you kind of expect. Now, these two examples shows that, yeah, that's execution. That's execution promise. So with these two examples, we really want to make sure that if you're an institution trading on blockchain, sooner or later you will have to come to us. And if you're a regular trader, we're still going to execute your trade as if you were BlackRock. Yep. So we're working together with 0x, the largest decentralized exchange, and ABN AMRO in order to kind of expand the barrier in DeFi and to enable institutions to participate in the sector, not only as investors, but as creators of the next generation of financial products. Our team has a background of startup founders, blockchain developers, and I myself coming from the Hatching group of Morgan Stanley. And why we know that this is pretty much crypto winter right now, we believe it's a time to build. I think we have a terrific team, great partners around us, and we really can't wait to put in the work and bring you the best on-chain trade execution to you. Thank you.
Thanks. Nice company. Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Indeed, how does it feel now in the crypto winter? How do you notice that? Do you see a lot of struggle to actually work with partners now because people are responding differently? Because I mean, the valuation is one thing, but I think there's still a very strong underground current on actually, building things with technology.
Yeah. So regarding valuation, as you said, there's obviously it's more going down. But when you look at the partnerships, also on a high level, so BlackRock's teaming up with Coinbase, JPM, Goldman, they're doing their own rollouts. I mean, we are here with ABN and they're launching a Web3 accelerator. So that kind of tells a lot from the infrastructure perspective. And I think because we are focusing on such a niche area within DeFi, so trade execution for institutions above, let's say, 100K threshold, yeah, obviously it's not that fun. That was free money 2 years ago. But we believe in our value proposition and yeah, to deliver what we promise.
Yeah, I think that's definitely worthwhile. I think, yeah, I mean, much to discover still in this space. Any questions from the audience? Was it well to follow? Yeah, go ahead.
So how do you manage to reduce this market impact so much? Do you act as a market maker somehow, or is there some timing risk, or yeah? What?
No, that's a great question. We expected that. So. Because of the decentralized order book, you do not trade against Uniswap or against Sushi with our infrastructure, but you place kind of like a limit order or an open order into kind of like the ether, and there are a bunch of market makers, arbitrage bots, institutional market makers as well, who are going to find the arbitrage and fill up your order. So in practice, let's say that 3 million order would be executed by ballpark 30 to 40 arbitrage bots within the timeline of 30 minutes, I would say. And for an institution who's used to T+3 days of trade execution, I believe 30 minutes cuts it.
Acceptable, yeah. All right, any other questions from anyone? Yeah,
which growth stage are you? I mean, what's your substance currently?
So 2 months ago, we didn't even have a website, just a technology. Now we already have an app, and you can join our waitlist. So you can whitelist your blockchain-based wallet, so MetaMask or Wallet Connect, whichever you prefer. And then you can try out the infrastructure. In one word, we're in closed beta. And we really look forward to, work together with ABN and kind of test this whole product as well from an institutional perspective, and to kind of get into this learning process with them. Very early stage.
Is there anything you need still in the process? Are you raising funding, building your team? What are you looking for mostly at the moment?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
We just hired a new developer, but we're always looking for sharp minds with blockchain experience, mostly on the tech side. And yeah, right now we have a 6 to 8 month run rate. So we're also, just as Ryan, we're planning to do fundraise early 2023.
Okay. Cool. Any last questions from the audience? Anyone? No? Then let's give you a big hand. Well done.
Thank you.
And please go to Menti. I think he weathered the storm of the missing font quite well. So I hope you were able to scan it. Are we all in? Yeah, you can. If you've done it before, you can just use. Go back to your browser and fill it in there. Yes, then we're continuing. It's time for the Kahoot quiz. Let's see. Oh, then maybe first, Sander, could you already go to my colleague at the back for wiring? Where's the Kahoot? Is it open yet, or? Oh, there. Oh, there. Okay. Yeah. All right, here we go. This again, so you could use the Kahoot app, or you could go to kahoot.it and fill in this game pin 300-706, or scan the QR code, but I guess this one might be a little bit small for some people in the back. You can give it a try, but otherwise go to kahoot.it in your browser on the phone and type 300-706. Yes. Let's see, I think there's still some people coming in. I see that someone who was laid off from Robinhood also joined today. Did everyone manage to get in? Who wants to play? Wait a little more. Yeah, we all managed? Are you there at the back? Yeah, okay. Cool, then let's get started and have a bit of fun. All right, remember, so I'll read the question, you read the answers on the screen and you pick the color on your phone. And the faster you do that, the more points you get, right? Which US company is launching a new digital payment solution that will enable domestic and international B2B payments? Is that Stripe, BitPay, American Express, or Adyen? So the answers are coming in. So basically, I hope everyone who's new to this it's always the first question is a bit of a struggle, but I think you'll manage. And don't worry. One question lost, it doesn't mean you've lost everything. Yeah, well done. Indeed, most of you got that right. That's American Express, like we discussed earlier in the monthly overview. Everyone's got the hang of it? Then we'll continue to the next. Oh yeah, of course, we got the leaderboard. We got someone who's at home here doing well, a Techstar, so well done. Let's go to the next one. How much of the staff is a stock trading company, Robinhood, cutting down after their $30 million fine? 25%, 35%, 49%, or 19%? Approximately, yeah. Don't make it too hard on yourself. It's about 25% indeed. Most of you got that right. It was a bit tougher to answer this one, but it's nice that you've been paying attention so far. Thanks. Any developments here? No, Techstars are still doing very good. We see the ranking number 2, 3, and 4, 5 are in the shift, but please keep it going and try to be fast. Which important hurdle did we see taken in the Forex market? Was that Euro Swiss franc parity, Euro pound parity, Euro yen parity, or Euro US dollar parity? I think you should know all this. Not a very hard one. Yes, well done, well done. That's indeed really good for you to pick this up. Let's see, any changes here? Ooh, Techstars missed one, and Harman is taken over. Very nice to see the leaderboard shaken up a little bit. In total, we've got 8 questions, so still a few more to go. The Ukrainian government is now also able to receive donations in what? Stocks, crypto, NFT, or bonds? I see that my Ukrainian colleague already gave a good hint in the image. It was NFTs. Tough call indeed with the crypto one. They actually already started accepting crypto earlier when they legalized it as a payment means also in Ukraine. But the more recent news was about them accepting NFTs. Cool. Any challenges here? Jan is moving to the top. Well done, well done. And Robin Hood also apparently doing well in finding a new job, at least with regard to fintech knowledge. The European energy crisis haunts the average inflation to which point in Europe in August? What was the European average inflation in August? 7.1, 8.1, 9.1, or 10.1? Yeah, it was tough. Indeed. I think in some countries, especially in the Netherlands, it's higher, so that's why I can expect you to think that it's actually above 10. But the average across Europe, it was relatively, was a bit lower. Any shake up here? We got a mysterious T now at the top, so doing very well. We're very curious to see who you all are, at least the winners, because otherwise we can't hand you out any prizes. What was the policy brief from the Young UNCTAD actually on? Was it on the decline of globalization, the dangers of cryptocurrency, the rise of identity fraud online, or the energy crisis and the increased household debt? What did they research and write about? It's a bit of a mouthful, but most of you got that right. Well done, well done. Indeed, the danger of cryptocurrency, in particular in the use of in developing nations, as we discussed a bit earlier. T doing well, being on a streak with 6 correct answers. That's pretty well done. 2 more to go. Which European payment company received 250 million euros in funding? BlueSnap, 2C2P, Moneyflow, or Alipay? Yes, all well done. Indeed, Moneyflow, largest funding round globally in August. Any shake up here? Oh, T is losing it. Remco is taken over. Curious to see. 1 more question to go, and then we'll see the final leaderboard. Which edition of Amsterdam FinTech Week is taking place next week? The 2nd, the 5th, the 6th, or the 4th? This might be a tricky question for some of you, but I'm curious how many people got this right. Ooh, well done. Most of you got that right. 13, but indeed quite some deviations there. So quite a challenge. So let's see what happened to the leaderboard. Who is the winner of the September Kahoot quiz? Philip, doing well in 3rd place. Well done. 706. Mysterious one at number 2. And Xavier at number 1. Where are you, Xavier? Well done. Well done. We actually got something that's very handy for you. Could you get it, Sylvia? We got it very nice. Congratulations. Well done. Well done. And we've got something that's very handy given the weather. Yeah. You needed one, right? I saw it. No, well done. Congratulations. And of course, the honor of winning the September Meetup Kahoot quiz. So let's give him a big hand, everyone. Thank you. All right. Potentially, but the problem is there's always a bit of a time lag. So you usually get less points because you're a bit later in giving your answers. But yeah, still something we're working on because it would be even more fun to do this on a global scale. But all right. Yes. Then we go to Sander. You ready?
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Here's your slide deck. Yeah, good luck.
anybody can raise their hand. Have anybody currently, are they working in finance as a finance professional, controller, or in this business area? A couple. And then, does anybody have ever done expenses? I guess that's where all the hands will be raised. So that's also what it is in regards today. Just a very brief highlight. Recently joined Payhawk. We opened an Amsterdam office. Payhawk is a Bulgarian founded company. Received 100 million in November and another 100 million in February from Green Oaks and from Lightspeed Ventures. With this, we are opening office in the Netherlands, France, and in the United States. United States launch is planned for later this week. And we have currently 70 customers in the Benelux, and we actually help organizations to improve their financial operations, driving collaboration between non-finance and financial departments, getting better insight within their financial spend, where it's being spent, by who, and to create actually collaboration to ensure that the finance professional can become a more strategic business advisor to the business. So teams are really struggling. There's a lot of travel, especially post-COVID. We see that the travel is catching up again. Remote employees doing some expenses also for within the house. Online spend, of course, another way of spending, and dealing with company cards and banks that typically provide these cards with KYC bureaucracy, being able to put limits on specific cards, and actually a lot of complexities that don't allow organizations to have really control over when, where, and who can spend money for the organization. And also cash and reimbursements typically go throughout payroll, and that creates delays for actually being reimbursed for any expenses that you can do. And there's a better way to do that, and also help in this sense to organizations to scale and scale globally without pressuring too much the financial operations with the expenses or the burden that it actually brings to all the people here in the room that are used to doing expenses, chasing receipts, verifying if the expenses are justified. And it's creating a lot of dis-synergy within the organization that actually is non-value added time spent for organizations that can be spent on a much more valuable way. So how does it work? Actually very simple. You can issue a card, virtual or physical, on the fly to any of your employees at any moment in time. Virtual issue immediately. Physical takes about 3 days to be shipped to your office and is available in multiple currencies to prevent FX fees that might apply if you do spends in other countries with other currencies. Basically, you just pay with the card, pop-up comes on your phone, make a picture. The first time, if that vendor is not recognized, you need to decide what the category is and the justification of the spend, and it will automatically go to the relevant finance department for review and approval. If the vendor is recognized, you will only have to fill in the business justification and no longer the actual category for the spend, which then will automatically be recognized, which is for a lot of people not having all these piles of expenses anymore on your desk. Me as a sales professional for over 20 years are very used to, at the end of the month, having to fill in all these expense reports, waiting for feedback, waiting for reimbursements, which typically is also not the best way for us to spend our time, or to be annoyed by delayed or disapproved expenses for reimbursement in that sense. Also, it allows for controls. Also, if you look at possible reimbursement that you spend out of pocket with your own money, right? If you have a card, you know the transaction actually has been taken place at that time in this specific store, providing additional control for the financial departments and for the investments considering that. So also you have the ability to optimize customized workflows to who approves it, if it goes to your manager, multi-sequential approvals, or to specific cost owners of IT spend or subscription spend or marketing spend, and also allows for group cards that people can spend from a specific budget, maybe a president club or organizing an event that multiple people that contribute to that spend of that event can actually be organized in a really controlled manner that they consume from a specific budget. Of course, it can happen that there might be not enough funds on the card available. The funds are not on the card, but it comes from an IBAN that the cards have a limit on the card that they can take the money from that specific IBAN. And if there would not be enough, let's say you have a trip to the United States and your budget would be 1,000, but hotel plus flight would be 1,500, you can request additional funds that will go to the specific approver that can on the phone immediately approve funds immediately available to actually continue with your purchase, and in that sense also have great control, or having an automatic ability to a specific upgrade that can be approved automatically without anybody approving that. Completely customizable, on the fly, adjusted and applied, and that's one of the things that we do differently than the traditional ways of doing business with cards, spends and reimbursements. Another thing more related for the finance professional, but we have OCR recognition, which means also for the users actually, because normally you have to fill in a lot of fields with the date or other type of information. The OCR recognizes 85% accuracy in 60 different languages to basically automate the population of these expense reports for the finance people to review, saving a lot of time from the people that travel and do the expenses, as well as from the finance departments, and also automatically reconsolidate this for your month-end close to speed up these processes in that sense as well. That was actually my short overview of Payhawk. One interesting thing maybe, we recently published also our Harvard Business Report with analytics about finance professionals and challenges to enable finance professionals to become more a strategic business advisor to the business, and of course improve collaboration and get a better mutual understanding of cost, spend, why, and making a better synergy for the company in that sense. Thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you. Well done. Yeah, I think really interesting and useful tool, right? It's quite a crowded market, right? How do you see the developments in general with all the, basically ranging from expense management to virtual IBAN, that space is getting pretty busy?
Yeah, it's a busy space that I've also recognized in the first 6 months that I'm here. Actually, there are traditional suppliers that are pure expense management solutions like Raidu or Mobile Expense or SRXP, SAP Concur, that are the traditional expense management, and then you see the modern innovators, which are like the Yokois and the Playos and these type of similar type of solutions that are currently in the market. What I see as a differentiator in the terms of Payhawk, that we have strong integration, full integration strategy with their ERPs, really providing an audit trail end-to-end from transaction into ERP, and also the acceptance of the global multi-currencies and scaling out to make sure that in any local country you can issue cards in your local currency to use those cards without having implication of FX fees. But on the other hand, given that there are so many companies that have received funding in this area, also is a strong indication of the big opportunity that these companies has to really disrupt the way, providing more control, more transparency, and enable the finance professional to become a more viable strategic partner to advise the business.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So I'm not sure what you mentioned about know your customer. You said it at the beginning, but this is of course also a topic for, I guess, this kind of service. So how does it work in sort of a global card issuing?
Yeah, so what happens is as soon as we onboard a customer, the owners of the customer, they go through the KYC process. Once that KYC process is improved, there's no more KYC needed for issuing the cards. So when normally a normal employee joins, they also have to be part of the KYC, and it's repetitive, it slows down, it's somewhat less agile in that sense. So it's done based once or various times. If there's multiple entities, then it could be based on the entities, but once it's done, it's set and you can issue cards or block cards on the fly at any moment in time.
Yeah, because it's a mandate of the company, right? So that's probably why you don't have to KYC all the people.
Correct, exactly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can companies use their own bank cards with your software, or do they have to use your card?
They are Visa cards, Visa commercial cards provided by the company. Also the company came out of the Visa Innovation Program.
Does that mean your cards have to compete with traditional bank cards?
We are replacing traditional bank cards very often, yes.
Are companies usually willing to replace all their cards with another company?
So far all the customers that have decided to replace their current banking, and you can imagine, right, if let's say you have an entity in the United States, entity in the UK, entity in the Netherlands, you're dealing with 3 different banks and 3 different processes to issue these cards. That's what we see very often. So you can actually consolidate it in dealing with one bank, one KYC, and then actually be able to globally issue and block cards at any moment in time. And that's what one of the benefits that organizations see by reducing the banking complexities that are related to that process.
Do you also do virtual card only?
No, virtual and physical cards.
Always also physical?
Also physical.
So if I don't want physical cards?
You can only issue virtual cards to your team.
That's also possible?
Yeah, you can either or both.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
No, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
Because actually now a lot of virtual cards that are being issued or that are attached to actual cards require you to do transactions also with the actual cards to be able to activate your virtual card, which is just really annoying.
It's either
So,
or.
yeah.
It's either
Anyone?
or.
Anyone
Yeah,
solving this?
yeah.
Yeah? Anyone? Please? Yeah? Yeah, question over there.
Are there any perks involved with the card for the user?
We're working on that. For the US launch there will be. We're upgrading to the Platinum network there as well to provide additional insurances and lounge access, etc. At the current in the European regions, that's not yet the case. For the UK, we're also implementing that. And for Europe, it's on the roadmap for early January.
And what you're looking here for?
To present to the community and also have you as possible people to expand. If you see that you're struggling with this on a day-to-day basis, introductions to your financial team to see how we can drive synergy between you and have eventually finance become a more valuable business partner and you being reduced or relieved from the burden that comes with expense management.
So how is your team, what does it look like now in the Netherlands?
Yeah, so we opened in May, currently hired 22 people in the team, consisting of business development, salespeople and customer success. Now working on some marketing people to be added to the team, and also we're going to implement now customer implementation specialists like pre-sales, post-sales that do pre-sales and post-sales implementation to really guide that process, integration specialists and channel managers to integrate within the ecosystem with the NetSuite partners and the Microsoft Dynamics partners and Exact partners in that sense.
Okay, Bas?
What about cost not done? Great pitch, by the way. What about cost not done through the card, like subscription or others?
Yeah, correct. So we also provide invoice management. For the moment, the PO-heavy environments are not a good fit for us. We are going to implement early next year the PO ability to also generate PO. But we also have a lot of online digital companies that have Google AdWords spends or Slack subscription or any cloud infrastructure that can be automated through these cards as well. And in that sense also a benefit as we provide cashback based on transactions done through those cards that can also be run through those cards in subscriptions for Slack, etc. That can create quite of a return on investment on the investment made in the subscriptions for these solutions.
Cool. Any last questions? Yeah, go ahead.
You know, you're about to open a new U.S. office, very big country, New York City, probably.
New York City, correct. Yeah, yeah. We're actually at SaaStr next week, the biggest SaaS event as well there to launch the office, and yeah, looking to expand there as well as we have done across Europe with across now 200 employees across Europe and approximately 700 customers. Cool. Yeah, but we see, for example, if you look at the market, Pleo is for us considered to be at the lower end of the market, in 0 to 100, 150 employees, same for Spendesk, and less good with their integration strategy. And if you don't have an integration with Exact, with Xero, with Data, with NetSuite, the value is less because it still creates a huge burden for the financial team for their month-end close and possible tax write-offs that need to be taken in consideration due to that. But yes, Pleo is a company that we see, but we don't come across about 200, 500 employees, and especially not at 1,000 employees plus. They will not be at the moment viable to serve these customers in a good way. Thank you so much for your attention.
Let's give him a big hand. Well done. And then, of course, please, your evaluation of this pitch. I think we have one more. Yeah, Mitso, could you go to the back to get wired? Oh, yeah. Oh, you're already wired. Cool. I hope everyone's able to, come along, then I'll give you the clicker. Please, everyone, are you okay with Menti, so you can continue on the previous one or scan the QR code again? Yeah, that's also fine. Yeah, whatever you prefer. Okay. I'll put this here then. Yes, are we done with the rating? Then here you go, Mitsko. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Good.
So, my name is Mieszko, serial entrepreneur, CEO at Fangs Network. So, Fangs Network allows you to launch digital assets very quickly and securely, and embed them in your app, website, or platform. So, if we look at our team here, this is back in 2020, and we raised 90,000 euros from the European Union, equity-free. And why? Because the European Union recognized that we are moving into the era of digital assets. But these are still not as accessible as it should be. You know, the technology is difficult to implement, and the talent is missing to do so, right? So this is a big problem. And actually, you know, this is the problem we are tackling. So our solution makes launching digital assets as easy as 1, 2, 3. Let me break it down a bit. So step one, you create your tokens or NFTs in your dashboard. So this is a low-code solution. So no coding involved. You just point and click, and the smart contracts are deployed in 20 seconds. 2, you embed them, you know, in your channels using our ready-made integrations with Discord, YouTube, Twitter, or even more powerfully, you use our API and SDK. And 3, you onboard your users using your branded wallet provided by us, social login, and very important, free transactions to your users. So, you know, what this boils down to when we compare our solution to doing it yourself. So you launch in days instead of months. So the time to market is, you know, greatly reduced. You save hundreds of thousands of euros plus weeks of looking for developers, which simply are very hard to find. You know, they're just not around. So, you know, with us, it's pay as you go. So you can say this is digital assets as a service, it's tokens as a service. It doesn't get any better than this. So let me show a quick business case. So how does this look in practice? So this is Mathias Dendois. He is a BMX world champion with about 1 million followers on social channels. He created a Dois token with our software, and he embeds it in his sponsor videos on YouTube. So people can click on the link, you see it on the left-hand side, and then instantly they go to the middle screens where they are onboarded into their wallet. So you sign on with Google, and immediately you can claim your tokens. Behind the scenes, our software hands you a private key. It's not non-custodial, it's really cool. And immediately you have them in your wallet. And as the last step, it's very nice cross-platform. You can claim you can spend your tokens, exchange them for a discount code, and spend them in an e-commerce store. So, you know, this is the perfect moment to join, on this journey. A bit about our sales and go-to-market strategy. The United Nations Development Program, our launching customer, just renewed for a whole year. So they are the second year with us, very happy about that. We have a number of projects which are a work in progress. And we have signed letters of intent with a record label, everybody knows, but I cannot mention. With a collectible issuer, also everybody knows in this room, but I also cannot mention, and a couple of SaaS and gaming companies. And we're adding more people every month. So what I'm asking from you here today. So first of all, I'm very happy to announce that we are part of the Future of Finance class by Techstars and ABN AMRO. And what we are offering here to you today, and it's valid to the end of the month, is to join on a convertible note, 100K, against the exact same terms as Techstars. Meaning that it's a 3 million valuation cap, 20% discount, 5% interest. So, you know, I think it's a very opportune moment to join on this journey. This will give us about, 8 months of runway, which we call an extension of our pre-seed round, and allows us to tune our product market fit. So to invest in the future of digital assets, please contact me. My contact details are on the screen. And also as a demo of the product, please scan the QR code. Thank you for listening, and you can claim 100 thanks tokens. Thanks.
Well done, Miske. And a nice presentation. Very interesting as well to see you dive into the digital assets world.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions from the audience already? Anyone? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. In terms of regulation, do you need any kind of license for, liquidating the digital asset also?
Yeah, that's a good question. So You know, for us at this moment, no. In the Netherlands, most of this is unregulated. But it kind of depends on what the end user does with the tokens. So yes, you know, we do educate our customers that there are certain scenarios where you could run into, you know, launching a regulated asset. This is not something we are currently solving for our customers.
Okay. Any other? I'm in any case curious about what kind of value you think is this mostly about. I think one of the key areas where I see in any case a lot of opportunity as well is basically sort of content online, for example, right? Being basically shared as digital assets and also being able to get royalties from, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see that kind of asset class also being working, or do you see more, let's say, what kind of size of assets or specific assets do you feel are mostly suitable for this?
So we see our customers doing two things. So basically it's, we see non-profits who are fundraising through NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a great use case, so there is also not a lot of regulatory stuff going on when you do this.
Yeah.
So that's one. And the other is more of an engagement token. So, you know, loyalty programs, stuff, you know, and the value of using blockchain technology is that it's very cross-platform. You know, you can send it without having users to log in and stuff like this.
Yep.
So, and those tokens are not necessarily tradable. You know, you can trade them obviously, but there is no market for them. So that hopefully that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, I think it does. I'm more sort of also looking at sort of how you can actually create revenues with these digital assets basically in a more normal way. Do you see that happening as well with your platform, or is that not just part of the roadmap?
How we drive revenue, or
yeah, so how you make the assets generate revenue?
So the assets that are launched using our system, how those generate revenue?
Yeah, so now they're tradable, right, or not? So you can trade the assets?
Yes, yes.
Or can you also tie, let's say, revenues to it, right? So if you have, if you have the license, let's say music rights, for example.
Royalties. Yeah, so NFTs do have royalties to them, obviously. So our system supports all major marketplaces. If you launch an NFT through our system, so yes. We are also experimenting with 100% royalty fee for non-profits. I think that's a very fun use case. You know, I sell my NFT to you, and everything goes to the no profit of the sale. So you know, those are fun things. And yeah, in our own business model, we take a small cut of some transactions. So yes, you know,
that's your business model. Yeah, okay. Clear. Thanks. Any other questions from the room at the moment? Well, I think the funding round, when it was planned again?
Well, now.
No, you're actually, okay. Oh, okay. Well, we still have an hour, so let's get it fixed.
Get your checkbook. No. Oh, actually, we do accept digital assets as well. So, USDC, welcome. Euros, dollars. All good.
Cool. So I think, well, assets in any case a good call. And well, I hope you find some people. So let's talk to you during drinks, right? And
yeah, absolutely. And you know, like similar to perhaps most companies in Techstars, we'll have a bigger funding round next year.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Misko. Let's give him a big hand. Yeah, I'll bring it to the next one. Oh, we got more slides. Yeah, here's Menti. All right, everyone, for the final rating of this pitch, please go to Menti again or scan the QR code if you haven't done that yet. And give a value of what you thought of the pitch of Miska right here. Sanna, are you checking the results? Cool. All right then. Did everyone get the chance to do it? Then let's go. Oh, that's interesting. Another one. Okay, it's the same. Just to check, I think they're the same. Maybe Sean can give it. It's easier, I think. Yeah, here. Sorry? You just. is for Beyond Equity. Well done. Come forward. We also have something for you, so well done. Nice pitch. And you guessed already, probably given the weather, we thought we'd make it useful for you in any case. I think your coat, you need to keep it dry. Yeah. All right. Now, well done. Let's give you a big hand. Well done on the pitch. Yeah, I just want to tell you, of course, about our next meetup, which is coming up next month. Again, second Friday of the month. You could always count on it. Amsterdam FinTech Week coming up. This is next week, which will kick off on the Tuesday morning with the launch of the landing page in the Netherlands, which is basically a resource for everyone who's exploring to set up shop in FinTech in the Dutch market that we're trying to help out. And we've got an investor breakfast coming up at the end of the month, so also keep your agenda for that. If you're still fundraising around that time, definitely sign up to pitch, or I see also some investors in the room. Please sign up if you'd like to join that and listen to what the companies are looking for.
Do you need to be part of the Amsterdam FinTech Week to be able to watch online the launch of the landing page on Tuesday?
No, the launch of the landing page is also available online. You can watch it. Yeah. Anyone can watch it. Okay. Yeah, that will be public. All right, that's it. I think from my end. Just checking in, Sylvia. Are we all good? Yeah. All right. Sam, all good? Michael, all good? Yeah. All right. Cool. Then I'd like to thank you all. I hope you had a bit of fun, and let's get a drink together and enjoy heading into the weekend. And looking forward to see you again next time. Thanks a lot. Well done.
Perfect for me.
Yes.
Not too big, quick.
No, it's nice. Yeah, no. Well done. And it's nice. A lot of fun. Hey, goed je te zien. Dat is lang geleden. Inderdaad.
Alles tussen gehad.
Ja, nee, zeker.
Wel eens met de kids, zag ik je. Die zijn ook natuurlijk ouder geworden bij jou.
Ja, nee, precies.
Hoe oud zijn ze nu?
Hi.
Ja, ik had...
Ik denk wel dat er over gesproken.
Ja, ik had laatst ook via LinkedIn even contact opgenomen.
Oh ja.
Ja, geleden.
Ja. Maar je bent er ook weer zo uit. Ja.
Dus gisteravond, ik was sinds gisteren weer even terug in Amsterdam. Dus dacht ik...
Oké.
Ja.
Wat leuk.
Global Tech City. Er was